and welcome to OnlyBCFans, the show. I'm your host, AJ Ansari, and today we've got a very special guest for our Season 1, Episode 1, Dmitry Katson, all the way from Bangkok, Thailand. Of course, that's the home of the upcoming Directions Asia conference. Before we get started with our interview with Dmitry, let me tell you a little bit about what's going on in the BC world. If you haven't kept up with social media posts, Business Central is now at 45,000 customers worldwide. That's more customers than the first native cloud ERP, Oracle NetSuite. That's quite an accomplishment. Business Central's gone from being the little brother to Dynamics 365 F&O, or what used to be called AX Exapta, to a product that shines in its own light and is doing really well across the world. Now, in this latest version, there were over 159 community contributions. Speaking of community contributions, our guest here today, Dmitry, he had the special distinction of being the BC contribution hero for his numbering series Copilot at the last release. Continuing on the ongoings of the Business Central world, we had the rollout of the public preview of the sales order agent, the first autonomous Copilot agentic functionality that Microsoft added to Business Central, while the payables agent is in private preview within the community. Now, there's also a lot of events that are happening. It may be hard to keep up, so just between now and the month of June, I'm going to have to look down because I can't remember all of them. But let's just read through this list. We have got Days of Knowledge Nordic from the 2nd to 3rd of May in Odense, Denmark. Danes, tell me if I'm pronouncing this right. I think I got Unsa and Huga correct. Then we have Directions Asia, where both Dmitry and I are going to be. That'll be 7th to 9th May in Bangkok. I'll be hopping on some planes, trains, and automobiles, but I think Dmitry's going to have a much easier time getting there. And then we have our Dynamics Con Live, that is, out in Chicago, Illinois. That's the 13th to 16th of May. That's an event for both end users as well as Business Central partners. And that's followed by the Italian BC Day. And that's going to be a event, full day, free to attend in Italian, out in Milan on the 22nd of May. Dynamics Minds in Portorož, Slovenia. That's the third year this event's happening, 26th to 28th of May. And around the same time in Germany, we're going to have Days of Knowledge Central. And that is from the 27th to 28th of May in Darmstadt. And finally, another event that Dmitry and I are both going to be at, BC Tech Days. Big screens, IMAX theaters, learning, right? That's a pretty phenomenal conference as well. And that is from the 10th to 11th is actually the workshops, and 12th to 13th are the sessions. That is a lot of events and a lot of opportunities to learn. Hopefully some of you are going to be at some of these events. And if you are, find Dmitry, find me, find a lot of the folks who are out there. We love to meet you and we love to talk to you. So turning our attention to our special guest, most of you already know Dmitry and he needs no introduction, but I thought I'd introduce him in the way that I know. And I know Dmitry, and I think of Dmitry as the godfather of AI for the Business Central world, because I think he's been evangelizing the community about AI long before it was fashionable, long before the word Copilot had entered our vocabulary. And I think he's been gung-ho about creating and evangelizing our ecosystem around this. Now, he's certainly not the only one, so I don't want to take away from anybody else's thunder. But Dmitry, I think your accomplishments are quite out there for everybody to see. That starts with CentralQ.ai, right? CentralQ is the AI search engine for Business Central, built on top of a lot of great resources, whether it's Microsoft Learn, whether it's other community contributors' work, etc. We're going to talk a little bit about that for sure. And as I said before, the BC Contributor Hero Award winner for the numbering series Copilot. Dmitry, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, AJ, for having me. And I think I a little bit overdid my mission of bringing AI to BC world. At least looking at the sessions at many conferences, before, I think it was me and maybe Microsoft talking about AI, and now I can't find any other slot there. Everybody is talking about that, so it's now a pressure to find some interesting topic where I can talk about. But I think it's a good thing.
non-AI topics are becoming a session where nobody says the word AI. It's hard to find. Dmitry, I was thinking about this last year at BC Tech Days. At the opening keynote, you remember how Luke Van Dijk opened up? He
Yeah,
had those big logo Copilot. And he said Copilot, and then he said, "There,
yeah.
we talked
I did
about
it
it." And
first. Yeah.
yes.
I first pronounced that. Yes, I remember that. It was fun. Exactly.
Yeah. So now, clearly, I think at the events you're going to go to, and we'll talk about some of those, is let's start a little bit with Directions Asia, because that's the first one you and I are going to be. You can't spell Asia without AI, right? And you're going to have some sessions with AI. I believe first you have some pre-event training day workshop or workshops, and then you have few as well, right? So let's talk a little bit about, let's start there. What sessions are you doing at Directions Asia? And also, after you say that, tell me a little bit about how Directions Asia has evolved and grown. So let's start with your sessions first, and then let's talk a little bit about Directions Asia for a few minutes.
All right. So I would want to start that Directions Asia is actually very close to my heart conference, because actually it changed my life. There is a story behind that, because it was 2020. Actually, it was 2020, and we our family got used to spend a winter in Thailand, but most of the year we lived in St. Petersburg. And that was just a normal year where we spent the winter in Thailand, and I was waiting for the Directions Asia to hold the conference, to speak at the conference, and fly back to the St. Petersburg. But then the COVID came, and we were stuck in Thailand. And the long story short, we stayed in Thailand. Okay, but the reason for that was Directions Asia, because I waited for the Directions Asia, and my airplane tickets were just after. It was the middle of April, and the border was closed in the beginning of April. Uh, so actually, that was very, if you believe in some kind of uh, a plan.
Yeah, yeah. Destiny.
So yes, yes. So probably that was a plan. So that's why Directions Asia stay with me for forever.
To interrupt you and tell you something. If this was the year of COVID, I also think I had a session accepted for Directions Asia. Now, I hadn't
Okay.
bought my tickets, but I'm thinking if I also got there, maybe I'm also in Thailand there with you and talking about this as a home event, right?
Yep.
Anything could have happened.
Probably could have. Probably could
Yeah.
happen. Yes.
But yeah, continue. Yeah,
Yes.
please go
So
on.
that's why every time I go to Directions Asia is it's very big pleasure for me. This year, yes, will have a workshop. So it will be a full day workshop of developing AI inside of the Business Central. So I call it like native copilots, because when we use the term co-pilots nowadays, it's not very clear from the beginning what kind of copilot you can do. So you can do a copilot inside of Copilot Studio, which is outside of Business Central, which is your interest
Yep.
nowadays. And my interest is more close to Business Central, so how to build copilots inside of the Business Central, so more native experience. So that will be my full day workshop, and we will cover a lot of things. We will build 5 different copilots, from very simple one to more advanced one. And then I have 2 sessions. So 2 sessions during the conference. One session is a session with Waldo. It is a big session, so 5 minutes.
That's a part
When
one and part two session, right? It's broken down to two different parts of the
Yes,
day.
yeah, no, yeah, but it is scheduled like a 2 sessions, but technically it will be one big session. Yes, there will be no distraction between, so no pauses, just big long session, and we will show very cool, actually very practical. I even can't call it a demo, because it's some kind of copilot that you can bring to production just after that session, and we will talk about copilot that we will not solve, but help you in troubleshooting of Business Central. I actually use this Copilot for myself because I am not so good in KQLs, for example. And there is actually no Copilot that is good in Business Central KQL, I can tell you. And no ChatGPT, no Microsoft Copilot, no Azure Copilot will give you good results in that. And we actually built with this Copilot with Waldo because he's so good in telemetry, in KQL stuff. I'm good in building AI stuff. So we joined the forces and built the Copilot for troubleshooting, and we called Troubleshooting Buddy. This will be a story about how to build this. So actually
Nice.
from zero to hero. A lot of technologies are involved there, like Azure Search, like different prompt techniques, orchestrating all together. So it's a big topic.
Nice.
Yeah. And yes.
Oh, no, I was going to say, and outside of that, is that going to be very much like the workshop that you're doing at BC Tech Days later in June, or is that an entirely different workshop that you have? And that one's like a full 8-hour day, right? And if I remember, one of the days is fully sold out. I think the other day too, you have very few seats left. So I know there's a lot of interest there too.
The workshop will be about more general Copilot building techniques, but we will also do this session during BC Tech Days.
Nice.
We give this opportunity to the Azure attendees to listen and learn from that, and to the European developers and entities to learn from that as well. The other topic that I will speak during a little bit different. It's more like thinking about what next, about after the copilots. So this will be more visionary session, but also very technical. So I will talk about agents, how to build agents, how to build a team of agents, how to use tools in agents. And this will be a normal 45-minute session, but this will be very cool, I can tell you. So a lot of cool examples and minimum code, really minimum amount of code, how to use like agents frameworks to build your agents that can really solve tasks. So looking
Nice.
forward for this session as well.
Yeah. So Dmitry, let me ask you a question. I think you and I have been at Microsoft MVP for about the same amount of time. Did you get your first award in 2018 or in 2017?
18, yes.
Okay,
18.
so the same year. I don't know who, which months it was, but so congratulations. You've been doing this for a long time. What was your initial area of passion with NavBC? Uh, Before we were talking AI and co-pilots, what were some of the things that you were doing with Business Central, or has it been really kind of in that AI machine learning space the whole time? Tell us a little bit about that. What drives you? What makes you tick? And what made you tick and really got you passionate?
So no, it was not AI from the beginning, of course. Well, I think I started blogging around 2016. And I remember my first blog that was about how to set up bank integration for the Russian localization. And it got a lot of interest because I remember that in every project, everyone struggled with that. I just decided to write the blog that everybody can use, and it became very popular very quickly. So, and I felt this excitement that, hey, I can be very valuable. I think that at this point of time, I already got like 12 maybe years of experience in different BC implementation projects. So I learned a lot. So I thought, hey, I think blogging could be a nice
Yeah.
continuation and sharing my experience with the world. And even just from the beginning, it showed that it is true. So I just continue. But then my point of interest always was development. So I started with the development. This time, AL was born, and I was, I think, first in this period in Russia who actually learned AL and started teaching AL in St. Petersburg, and I was start blogging about that as well. Uh, so I think these blogs were also very valuable for the community. this transition from CL to AL was actually very, everyone was doing this and everyone was struggling with this as well. So, of course. And then I very slowly started to blog about machine learning stuff because, that's natural thing. So you learn something in your daily work, you then share this using blogs because it helps you to learn, of course, because when you write a blog and before we wrote the blogs by ourselves without any GPTs, and when you write a blog, you discover many things that you didn't discover before, and
It
it's a good
forces
way
you
of
to go
learning.
into some details, right?
Yes, of course,
Like, I
of
think
course.
what I realized is that every time I would do a blog article, I would have to go and take more screenshots, go into a little more detail, and I would sometimes even find things that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah, that's how it works. So it's a win-win for everybody, right? And also, I think the interesting thing, the second time when Directions Asia helped me, because it was Directions Asia when Microsoft first introduced Business Central, and it was 2017 probably, or 18. I don't remember.
18 probably, but yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah, probably yes. And after this conference, I remember that I was sitting at the hotel at 2 a.m. at night, and I decided, hey, I need to blog about this. So I actually blogged about how to set up a Business Central from the beginning, how to deploy the trial and so on. This blog, I remember that it's exposed. It became very popular. After, I think half year after that, I became MVP.
Congratulations. Let me ask you something. You're clearly bilingual. You speak English well, and of course you speak Russian. Do you still create any content in Russian? Do you do any blogs, videos, any type of content in Russian? Or is I know in the business world people mostly speak English in a lot part of the world. So do you focus only on English content?
So on my blogging history, I started from English, from the blog one. So even the blog about the Russian localization was in English. And I did some Russian events before. For example, I was the first in Russia who organized the AI bootcamp when it was first introduced by the Microsoft. It was very good event, by the way, uh, with a lot of native speakers there. But then I think now I don't do any events in Russia in Russian language. It was English from the beginning.
Okay.
It was I think more uh, exclusion if I did something in the Russian language.
Yeah. No, I think it's an interesting point. I speak multiple languages, but since I was 5, I've been taught English at school, right? So I always struggle to communicate technical concepts in any language other than English. So I think it was last year I did one session in Urdu, but it was Urdu and English mixed. This year I tried to do one in Arabic and English, but it started with a little bit of Arabic and then mostly the rest of the session went in English. So I was curious how it is with other folks who speak multiple languages, right? How easy is it? Do you often just go back and forth and create it in different languages? That's definitely good to know what that background is. So I want to ask you another question. What was the version of Nav that was, or Navision that was active, or that was the latest version at the time you started in the world? That's question number one. And question number two, what is the oldest version of Navision that you have worked with?
So 3.7 was the first one when this version was when I started. NAV. The latest one, oh, you mean
The oldest one, yeah.
the
The
oldest
oldest one
one,
you ever touched, right? Like that you helped a client with.
NAV 2018.
Oh, no, no, no. I mean like the oldest, like the one going back. So I'll give you my
Ah,
example. When I
okay.
started, it was Navision 4.0 Service Pack 2. And the oldest one I helped somebody with was, I think, Navision Financials 2 or 2.1, something like that.
No, no. It was 3.7. So I started with this and this was the oldest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I think last week or 2 weeks ago, one customer asked me to do something in a CL. So I opened the CL and I thought, what should I do? I actually, it was shock for me that I cannot do this feature here. I cannot do these features here.
Yes, so many things just don't work there, right? Yeah.
Yes, and I need to type every letter there.
Yes. No IntelliSense. Yep. Nope. Yeah. None of those things were there. There are some good things, but yeah, you're right. Some of those. I will say one thing I used to really like because I learned to develop, and of course, in the old Navision, the original documentation, the old CHM files. Remember those?
Mhm.
They had some very good examples. Like if even to just demonstrate how do you use like case statements, right? What the syntax is. They had lots of examples in there and so on. I know Microsoft Learn is pretty good today too, but I thought those were even better. Let me take us in another direction. CentralQ.ai. That is when you think Dmitry Katson, you cannot think of anything other than CentralQ.ai first. Other things come to mind, but those are so synonymous, right? I think you've created something that was both the first practical application that everybody could benefit from using AI, but then it's also one of those things, as I said at the introduction, it relies so much on all the different aspects of content that's created from the community. I think you've created a free version. You have a version that some obviously because this is consumption, but you have to find some way to cover costs. You also have community contributors that kind of, or community sponsors. I know in a very small way with one of our sister brands, Only Copilot Fans, we're a sponsor as well. So tell us, first of all, how did you come up with the idea to do CentralQ.ai? Were you just looking for something to try, or was there always a certain plan that you had and you were building? So talk us through that history of how you came to build CentralQ.
Well, I think as every a good project, it starts with something that you really need for yourself. So it was a beginning of 2023, and ChatGPT just appeared, and everyone was so excited. So do I. And the first thing I try to use ChatGPT to use it in my daily job with a Business Central, right? And I started to ask some questions. Hey, how can I do this? How can I do this? And it gave me great answers that were like a bullshit. The feature didn't exist, and I tried and didn't work. So I thought that, hey, you have something that works, understands me, but the answer is wrong. So how can I make it better? Believe me or not, this moment nobody know what is rock. Nobody knows that. So and I what I did, I followed many people on the X, yeah, on Twitter, I think, and watched many videos, and everybody were just experimenting. And I think I saw one video that a guy used some documentation for his product, and he just copied this documentation to the ChatGPT and asked a question, and suddenly ChatGPT could answer the correct answers, right? And I thought, so this flow works. And nobody knew about the rock at this stage.
Yep.
So it didn't even cold rock. But I noted that this workflow works. But if, copy everything to the ChatGPT and try to ask questions. I tried that. That didn't work because we have a context window, and it was like a 4K tokens at this period of time. And I continued my experiment journey, and I came to the vector databases.
Yep.
So I learned about the vector databases. I didn't know about that anything before.
Nobody knew about those either, right? They
Nobody
didn't know
knew.
RAG. They didn't
Yeah,
know vector databases,
yeah. That's not.
semantic
There was
indexing,
nothing
none of
there.
those. Yeah.
There was no Microsoft Copilot in Bing at this period of time. So I learned the vector databases concepts. I learned this search and paste context to the context flow, which after was known as a RAG. And I found that this workflow works pretty good. So what I did, I indexed all the blocks and Microsoft Learn to the vector database. Okay, so I had this first mandatory feature there. Yes. And then I need to do the UI for that. So I thought that I needed UI, but I didn't do any web development before at all. So it was very new for me. So I learned the web development a little bit, and ChatGPT helped me to create the first version of the CentralQ. And but once again, there was no cursor, there was no VS Code. It was VS Code GitHub Copilot, but it was just for the autocomplete.
Right.
So it was no fancy tools that we use nowadays. So my workflow was just go to the ChatGPT, ask some HTML code, paste it, try. So actually, it took me 2 months from zero to the first version to build the first version of the CentralQ.
Now it's an app. And now it's an app in Business Central, right? And we've come
Yes.
that journey
So,
has come so far that not only is it just a portal, right? I think you earlier telling me, like when we were before we started recording, that now you have it in an app context that people can use it inside of BC, and you're doing some amazing things with that too, with improvements to that.
All right. So there is an app for the Business Central that you can find at the app source. So this is actually the internal chat inside of the Business Central, where you can ask the guidance about how can I do things in my Business Central. So, well, you can say that now we have the Business Central chat that actually do the same. There are differences. The differences are that the Microsoft chat use the Microsoft Learn, obviously, for the knowledge, for this workflow. So you ask a question, it goes to the Microsoft Learn, finds a potential answer, put it into the context for the LLM, and answers, which we call RUG nowadays. And the CentralQ app does similar thing, but I use also all the community knowledge for the answer, and you can also upload your knowledge there. So you can upload your instructions, and you can also record the page scripts, for example. So you can record the flow, the page script, how your business process works. It will, of course, record all your pertinent extensions, app source apps, and whatever you have. You can then link this link or upload the YAML file to the CentralQ app, and it will create the Word instruction for the user that you can actually just send to the user, but also it will use this as internal knowledge. So after that, you ask any question, hey, how can I post, let's say, sales order with the integration to the third-party app? Guide you exactly how it was recorded. And after that, you can even click on the answer in the link and run the recording, and that will show you the process. It's a very useful feature. But beside of that, you can also upload the Word documents, like about your apps, the app source apps, and so on. It's an interesting statistics that I found for the CentralQ app, for the CentralQ portal, that the average, the answer use around 76% of blogs, information from the blogs, and only about 40% from the Microsoft Learn. That's interesting insight, because I thought about this many times, why it's so. And I found that also observing the questions, that many of the questions are like not how to use the feature. Yeah, but how can I do things in a Business Central in the business process? And the business process uses different features. So the Microsoft Learn is more focused on the feature basis.
Feature by feature, and the blogs are kind of brings a whole journey together of a process.
Yes.
Do you mind if I ask you, in rough numbers, I don't need you to give me the exact number, but roughly how many people use CentralQ.ai every day? Is that something? And if you don't have the answer, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
So it varies, of course, day by day. I can tell you that the whole number of users that use the CentralQ, it's around 25,000.
Very cool.
Yes, and it's around now, I think, 400,000 answers there that were generated by the CentralQ.
Now, this may not be of interest to everybody if the people are not big into AI, but have you switched the model or models over time? Does CentralQ.ai use primarily one foundational model, or does it use multiple based on the type of questions asked? Because I know you're also looking through and answering questions from videos and so on. So what have you changed into? Can you tell us which model currently powers CentralQ.ai? I know it must be fine tuned and you may have done some stuff there, but just what is the foundational model?
It's a mix of GPT 4.0 and 4.0 mini now. So depending on the question, because I'm also doing the rephrasing of questions, summarizing some of the stuff. So yeah, it's a mix of them. And there is one more thing that I really hope that will come very soon for the CentralQ app. For the Business Central, it's about the data insights. So you can ask the CentralQ about the data insights in your environments in a natural language. And it's working now in my testing, but I'm doing more testing right now. Hope I will publish this later this month.
Will it be an update to the CentralQ app, or will it
Yeah.
be another
Yes.
app that is part of a larger suite of apps from Katson?
No. I thought about that, but I think that it should be one integration fill-in for the user. So it's one app, and in one chat, you can ask different kinds of questions like guidance and data insights. Internally, it's doing the orchestration, but it works using the Python interpreter inside. And the last open source project that I did and the last blog that I published was about that. It's not something that I do only inside of the CentralQ app. I did this as an open source project for the community, so you can go and find how these things potentially work. So because like doing the data insights is completely different story as a rock. Yes. So it needs to understand the question, it needs to find the right data, it needs to somehow group the data, do the analysis, and then bring the answer back to the user. And you will see that it also will give you very nice charts inside of the chart. So it really works pretty good. So on final stage of testing right now.
Wonderful. So speaking of apps, I was doing a count because this number changes all the time. Right now, there are 7,020 apps
Okay.
as of today for Business Central, right? It's amazing how far we've come. And just I think every month Microsoft comes up with with kind of a blog on the marketplace on new apps. And I was looking at how many new apps came in April. There were 8 new apps. Most of those were integrations. I think what I'd like to do in future episodes is if something stands out, we talk about them more. So first of all, again, congratulations on a fantastic journey. I want to turn back to you for one last question as we wrap up. And this was such a fun conversation. I could take this in so many different directions, but we do have to wrap up. So, as a hometown hero, as a hometown host for Directions Asia, talking to somebody who is coming and speaking to Directions Asia for the first time. I've got a session and a mini workshop as well, a 105-minute session. As you said, I do a lot of stuff around Copilot Studio, so it's surprise, surprise. That's what my sessions are mostly about. What should I do differently? Is there anything I need to do differently at Directions Asia, or what can I expect? Give me some tips as a speaker and give the audience an idea of kind of what to expect at Directions Asia, and then we'll start wrapping up from there.
That's an interesting question. First, you are coming to the Thailand, so at least you need to know a few words here.
Sure.
Uh,
Teach
it's
me.
yeah, so it's Sawadee Krap.
Sawadee
It's
Cup.
it's a hello, Pungkap. It's a
Up and
thank
cup.
you.
Right.
So it's 2 words you need to know. Directions Asia audience is of course different from the Directions EMEA. So here we have a mix of native English people from Australia and non-English people from Asia. Yeah, so we have, I think, many people from India, many people from like combined Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, I think. Au- Australia, New Zealand, yeah, and also Japan. So I think these are the areas are people coming from to Bangkok. So I think that I found that many Indian people are more interested in more technical things.
Okay.
How less theory, show us, show the thing. I think many people from Australia and New Zealand are more interested in more theoretical things because they are more like manager salespeople, I think there. So they want to know, how can I use it? Where can I use this feature? So that's why looking into the audience, you can feel where to more focus.
I like that tip. Yeah, exactly. Right. Look into that audience to kind of give you an idea which way you should focus your presentation. This was good. And you're right. I think knowing a couple of words in the local language shows respect for the community and a willingness to embrace culture. I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'm hoping the weather is going to cooperate. And by that, I hope it doesn't rain so I can go out and experience a town a little bit as well. From the pictures, the hotel, that Riverside Avani, looks like it's going to be a fantastic venue. Dmitry, I've
It
taken
is.
up a lot of your time. I want to say thank you. Thank you very much for being part of this episode. Thank you for sharing your story. And thank you for being a member of our community. I think this is wonderful. This is a special two-part episode of inaugural episodes. You are talking to me, and then by the time it gets recorded and posted, will probably be a day or two before this and the next one comes out. But the next one's with James Crowder. So I'm going to have a little conversation around Directions AJ with James as well. So once again, Dmitry, thank you for making time for me, and thank you for being a part of this episode, and thank you for joining OnlyBCFans' inaugural episodes.
Thank you, Jay, for having me. It was so fun. Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Thank you.